Oscar's Childhood, Part 20. Welcome, Carrot's here. We're opening in China with Mena chatting to Phil Oxley. He is one of my Sims. In fact, he's the very first werewolf Sim I ever made. And he's a lot of fun to play with. And he's got a clone as well. It's good because sometimes I accidentally add the same Sim into a world twice. And then I will change the second Sim's name and make them brothers or cousins or something like that. And Phil lives with his wife Gloria. She's a fairy. And they live in Moonlit Falls. Now this is Mena's mother, Emma, and she has managed to complete 4 tombs while she's been in China for this short visit, 3-day visit. It's easy to complete a tomb, you've just got to run inside a tomb that has already been completed by another Sim, and when you get to a certain room, the game will say you've completed it. But she's run out of tombs that she can do that with, so now she's going to have to actually work to complete the future tombs, and I don't know that I'll be taking her travelling again. Mena's father, who has to get his visa level up to level 3 in each world to get his lifetime wish, has got his visa level up to 1 and a bit. So they both made progress, but again, as I said, I don't know that I'll ever take either of them back adventuring. This was just because I thought I ought to give them a little bit of experience in what they had wished for. Sometimes Emma accompanied Jack when he was completing a tomb to get his visa points up, because she would also get the credit for completing the tomb, and she just wants to complete tombs. She's not worried about visa points. And I tried to get them to fulfill their other wishes as well, and Emma had wished to woohoo with Jack in a tent, but this isn't a tent, but I'm sure they're enjoying themselves. She does, however, have a tent in her inventory. She's been shopping, you see, and I'm sure a tent will fit somewhere in this tomb. I see a tent. Emma is about to get her wish come true. Remember, this pair are the parents of Ted and of Mena. And you haven't really seen much of Ted, but you've heard about him. And a lot of his descendants you have already come across, such as, for example, little Alison as his granddaughter. Now this is satisfying Emma's wish. There, she got 750 lifetime happiness points for that one. And of course, if Alison is Ted's granddaughter, she must be Ted's parents' great-granddaughter. And they're having fun. When she is not completing tombs herself or assisting her husband in his endeavours to get his visa points up, Emma likes to go shopping in the marketplace in Shangsimla. So far she's bought all of the recipe books and skill books and other general supplies and a few relics that she thought they might need. Mena has been in the bookstore reading. They were only in China for 3 days, so their time was soon up and they had to return home to Lucky Palms. As Jack and Emma and Mena head off home, we will leave them to enjoy their lives for the moment. Mena's going to return to Chocolate Cake Island shortly, and we're going to move on to Allison's place to meet her family and make sure she's doing okay now that she's gone home to her parents and her little sister Amelia. Now, that Sim there fishing, that is Allison's mother, Tammy. There's a beach in Lucky Palms. I haven't tried putting a dive lot in Lucky Palms yet. I might have a go at that one day. Now, Tammy is a daughter of Ted and Patience. She is a vocal legend. I have scarcely played her since she grew up. I played her regularly as a child and a teen, but that was years ago. Probably as far back as 2012 or 2013, when this big game first started. It's a small game without any mods and with the purpose of trying to get the badge for a Sim to have 15 children. When Tammy was a child, the house that she lived in was struck by a meteor. Tammy and her father Ted were killed by the meteor. But Ted had a death flower and Tammy didn't. So Tammy became a little ghost. It took me a long time to be able to get her to eat ambrosia to bring her back as a member of the family. Every few nights, probably once every 3rd night or so, she'd come out of her tomb and wander around the house, just investigating, seeing what's up. She'd float through the walls, and then she'd walk up or down the staircases. Up that staircases to the playroom that she was playing in the day that the meteor struck. down is where they have their living quarters, in the basement. On this night, she's decided that she's feeling a little grubby and it's time for her to have her bath. If only I could control her, I'd be able to get her to eat the ambrosia that her mother has put in the fridge. Patience has been fishing for death fish and in the wishing well because it's all wintry outside and she can't go to the graveyard to catch a death fish. Early in the winter she started to try to stand there all night, but it was way too cold fishing in the pond, and then the pond froze over and she doesn't want to wait until it's warm again. She wants her little daughter back right now. So she's spending hours fishing in the wishing well in the basement, and she did actually catch a couple of death fish eventually. When she'd finished her bath, Tammy thought about what she was going to do next, and it occurred to her that she'd really like to have a little snooze and a story. So she went upstairs to find someone. So that's her father Ted, chatting with her older sister, who is also Ted's daughter. That is Teresa. We've met Teresa in an earlier episode. She's now got 3 children of her own, but here she is as a teen with her little ghostly sister asking her for a bedtime story, and their father Ted watching on. There she is, waiting for her bedtime story, and her big sister, Teresa, is reading it to her. The glowing, ghostly eyes. Now she's had a bedtime story. She's got to go find a bed to sleep in because she's obviously very tired. Otherwise she wouldn't have asked for a bedtime story now, would she? She's smoking. It must have been from when the meteor hit her, making Teresa cough, all that smoke. Now she's got to go off and find a bed to sleep in. She finds a super sleeper and settles herself in for the rest of the night. She didn't start haunting until after midnight, so she won't have a long time to sleep. She has a super sleep until the sun starts to rise, and then she wakes up and heads back to her tombstone, out in the garden under the snow. She did eventually eat ambrosia, and that's why we've got her living in Lucky Palm with 2 little girls. And here is Alison coming home from school on the bus on her first day at school after she moved back in with her parents and her little sister Amelia. That is Jebidiah Wilson, the father of the little girls Alison and Amelia. I had some trouble getting Alison to do her homework on this occasion. She started it sitting in a chair downstairs, and she did 3% of it and decided that she wasn't doing any more. So I told her to do her homework, and she walked upstairs to her parents' bedroom where she found a desk. I've added a desk in another part of the house for the girls to use, but this is the one Alison decided she was going to use today. And that's her imaginary friend sitting on the floor beside her. It's still just a doll, but she likes to play with it. I'll put it in her inventory. Now, little Amelia has done her homework. She is a little fairy because I had a mod in the game. I got it from NRAS, and it's one of the ones that changes how the game works. And I took it out again when I discovered it was turning all of the little human toddlers into fairies. But I left the ones that had been turned into fairies as fairies. So that's how come Amelia has got wings. Both Amelia and Alison had been at the boarding school in Chocolate Cake Island, but they've both been at the boarding school together, and when they'd finished their toddler skills, I sent Amelia home as a toddler, but I kept Alison at the boarding school, and she stayed there and did her child skills because she was a little bit older than Amelia. And then when it was time to return Mike home, now you'll have to have watched a much earlier episode of Oscar's childhood to see Mike, because Mike was also a toddler at the boarding school who aged up to child. And just after Oscar arrived at the boarding school, I sent Mike home to his family here in Lucky Palms. Now Mike is the grandson of Marty, who was Patience's first husband. He's not directly related to these 2 little girls, but he is related to some of their cousins, such as Kathleen Kathleen is related to Mike because they share a grandfather, Marty. But Marty's not related to either of these little girls. But when I sent Mike home, I went around town and all of the toddlers who had been sent home from boarding school while they were still toddlers, I aged them all up then to children. And that's how come little Amelia is a child now. She still shows as being a few days younger than her big sister because I kept Alison at the boarding school for quite a long time after Mike came home and they aged up little Amelia. It's Jebidiah being ignored by his little daughter. I think he's a bit bemused by her. She's suddenly come home unexpectedly. She certainly doesn't seem to have anything much to say to him, at the moment at least. Now that witch is Percy Coffey. He is the father of Eric and Susanna Coffey. That little girl in the front cuddling her doll with the pigtails, she is Amy Hansen, and her big brother is Mike Hansen, who I was just talking about, and that's Kathleen Coffey behind. And Kathleen is the active sim, and I found her, she's out somewhere late at night, totally unsupervised by her parents, as is Amy. I'll leave Amy where she is and I'll send Kathleen home. Now this is Kathleen's mother, Hayley, and Hayley's parents are Patience and Marty. Marty's the only sim that Patience ever married, and he is the father of her first 5 children. And Kathleen's got to work on her painting skill. And that's the house that Kathleen will be living in. Her family is there. Hayley has a total of 9 children. The eldest is a teen and he has never lived with Hayley since she abandoned him and his father to go off and live with Jebidiah's Coffey. Hello, we've got aliens visiting. That looks like Pat. Pat is an adult and she lives in this house with them. She's Hayley's imaginary friend made real, and she has devoted herself to helping Hayley with all of these children. So she's having a little adventure with the aliens at the moment. So Hayley's husband was Bob, and Bob was the imaginary friend of her half-brother, Percy Coffey, and made his imaginary friend real. And then I've successfully got Hayley to marry Bob, and they had a little boy called Harry. Hayley abandoned Harry and Bob while Harry was still a toddler and went to live with Jebidiah, and Bob raised Harry on his own, and Harry inherited his father's trait, imaginary friend. Hayley lives in Lucky Palms with her family. It consists of her husband, Julius, her imaginary friend made real, Pat, Kathleen, her daughter who is a child, 6 toddlers, and a baby. Hayley's house is on a hill, and to the left of it there's this little flat area that's been built up above a basement, and that basement is only the width of that flat area you see on the left. And down in the basement there is a very small garden for Julius. This is Hayley's husband. Now he's in the science career and he needs to develop the gardening skill. So he's now got 5 large soil rugs in that one level of that small basement area to the left of the house. And that's all he's going to have to develop his gardening skill. And Hayley's parents are Patience and Marty. Patience lives on her own in Lucky Palms. She pops up in various places around town. She's got 16 children in the game now and lots of grandchildren. And there's Emma Fields running across in the background from the left to the right of the screen. There are other significant Sims living nearby. Remember Mike and his little sister Amy that we've met earlier in this video? Well, they live in that white house that's just across the street from Hayley's place. Mike and Amy's father is Hayley's half-brother, Mark. And Mark's parents are Marty and Marcy. And here we can see Hayley's house in the background. And that Sim walking towards Mark carrying a baby is his wife Maria, and their little toddler she's carrying is their son Vince, who is of course Mike and Amy's younger brother. Maria is a sim that I made years ago. She used to be a babysitter in my games, a live-in babysitter, and I finally decided to give her a family of her own, and that was when I put her in the game and she married Mark. This is a little park that Patience was just playing her solo chess game. That's Maria and their pet dog. There's Patience walking off, heading home. So Mark is not related to Patience, but his father was Patience's first husband. And that's Maria. That's Mike's mother. That's Harriet Jackson in the background in the yellow dress. She's a witch, and her little daughter is a plant sim called Colleen, and Colleen is one of the toddlers from the boarding school that was aged up recently to child. Another one of the group of children in this world who all know each other and are friends because of being at boarding school. Now there's one other sim living nearby who has a significant role to play in Hayley's household. He is the father of 2 of her toddlers. She seems to have this ongoing relationship with this other sim, and her husband doesn't seem to object. I guess she'll just keep doing it. Yes, it's Shark Racket from Twinbrook, and he is a very young adult in this game at the moment, but Hayley doesn't mind. She used to always stick to men who are old enough to be her great-grandfather, but now she's an adult. She seems to have changed her tastes to younger sims now. Back at home at Hayley's house, it's time for a birthday. Yes, Hayley's little daughter is to age up to child. Jamie is the second daughter Hayley had with Jebidiah's coffee and is Kathleen's little sister. There's also 2 little boys who are younger. It wasn't until Jebidiah died of old age that Hayley's relationship with him ended. That's Pat, Hayley's imaginary friend made real. She's come to help little Jamie celebrate her birthday. Here comes Julius, Hayley's long-suffering husband. He's a young sim as well. I made him to be in a small game on a deserted island with 2 other sims, but I only played with them for 2 or 3 sim days and decided it was too boring for me, so I stopped. I needed bigger games than there was possible there. That's Kathleen in the background. So Julius got put into this game and ended up married to Hayley. So there we go. And since she's in such an interesting household, I gave Jamie the trait of party animal. Now Jamie has been to boarding school. She is one of the toddlers that came home from boarding school as a toddler when I kept Kathleen and Alison there to do their child skills. So she knows all of the local toddlers that are now aged up to children, so she'll be fit in quite well and happily at school, because I made them all be friends with each other through the playpens before I sent them home. Kathleen's certainly happy to see her little sister aged up to child. Now she's got a child living with her instead of just a whole bunch of toddlers with one baby. We'll age the baby up towards the end of this episode. Next morning, Jamie sat outside in the sun on one of the little porches that surround the building in various spots. She was playing chess on the computer. Kathleen, in the meantime, had to run off to school. Jamie will be going to school tomorrow. We'll use today with Jamie to give her a makeover, new wardrobe, and then she can start on her child skills. Just in case I forget she hasn't been to boarding school yet, to learn her child skills. When she goes to boarding school, it won't matter if she already knows the skills, but she will meet extra little sims while she's there. I like to try to use this day after they've aged up and before they start school to teach them cooking and get their blocks done. Down in the little nursery, the cots are all full and Pat's busy helping. She spends most of her time in the nursery looking after little sims. And as you can see, there's quite a few of them that have been turned into fairies by that mod that I used to have in the game. When I saw how many of Hayley's children had been turned into fairies, that was when I finally decided that it had to go. That's little Connie Keaton learning to walk. She is the second youngest, and her father is Julius. Here we go, little Jamie Coffee has had her makeover, and she's got her new hair and new clothes. She's going to do something with her leftovers of her birthday cake. We need to get all that put away in the fridge so they can eat it later on. And then she can go downstairs to where some of the skilling objects are, and she can start working on the toy oven and learn the cooking skill. Apparently little Jamie doesn't cue things. She drops the cue and does whatever she was asked to do last instead. Now, this is Hayley. This must be one of her idle activities, playing the guitar. Looks like she needs to go to sleep. She's up here having fun while Pat's downstairs dealing with all of the toddlers and the one little baby. Here is Jamie. She's gone out to play on that flat area above the basement. The trampoline always seems to be popular amongst this household. I saw Pat on it before. She was bouncing really high. Here we go, toy ovens. I got these toy ovens from around The Sims 3. They work. So there's a block table there that she can use for her block skill as well. Those pants that she's wearing, the long pants, they are custom content as well. But I think her hair came with the game, as did her little top. It might be store content, I'm not sure. that piano in the distance, that is also custom content. After the piano in Sims 1, I really hoped or thought we'd get a piano like that in Sims 3, but we didn't. We just got an electric keyboard and a grand piano. So when I found that after I started putting custom content in my game, I was really happy. I think it's just called upright piano. I think that's little Joel having his bottle. Pat's getting a bit desperate. She's had enough. She needs a break. Too many screaming toddlers. That's one of the little coffee boys. I think it might be Gareth, the one with their red wings. There's plenty of bedrooms set up for any of them. If they all aged up without my assistance, they would all find somewhere to sleep. I think she got them all sorted out on the floors with stop them screaming and everything. Just put them all on the floor. Finally got the job done, and Hayley walked in and messed it all up by picking them up and putting them in cots again when all they needed to do was get their bottles on the floor. So then there was more screaming. So Hayley walked out and left her to it. So she had to take them all out of the cots again. This time she got to give them their bottles though before Hayley intervened. I think most of them have already done their toddler skills, especially the two little coffee boys, because they're well and truly old enough to be children now. It's just that I haven't been playing this world, so they've just been sitting there as toddlers. I don't want them to all end up being the same age as children, and I'll age them up to children when they've been to the boarding school. There's no room at the moment at the boarding school for them to be there, so they'll just have to wait quietly or screamingly in this world until there's space for them at the boarding school. Here's Hayley to cause a bit of mayhem. I don't think he needs to go on his cot, Hayley. So it's after school and Kathleen's heading off somewhere. Being a little witch, she's going to ride her broom home. That's Julius out picking up seeds for his brand new garden that he's just been given some soil rugs, and he doesn't have any seeds to plant, so he's gone out searching for seeds. He needs to get his gardening skill up to level 4 so he can advance in his career at the science facility, and so far he doesn't have any gardening skill at all. That's why he suddenly got given some soil rugs. And he went to the obvious spot in the end, the greenhouse. There are hundreds of seeds lying around in the ground here. He'll be in his element. He'll be able to have more seeds than he can cope with. Although since his gardening skill is so low, he's going to need to collect a lot of seeds just to get a few that he can plant in his soil rugs. He's got 5 soil rugs at home. Now, so far he's got, at this point, he doesn't have anything planted in any of his soil rugs. He's got to try to find enough seeds that a level 0 gardener can plant. That might take him quite a while to do that, because I think most of the seeds that he's finding are uncommon seeds. Uncommon seeds, you have to be level 5 at gardening to be able to plant them, and special seeds and rare seeds, you've got to be at level 7 in gardening before you can plant them. So he's going to have his inventory full of seeds that he can't plant yet. Oh, there's little Amelia on the spring rider at the greenhouse lot. Don't usually see little children on those spring riders, and here she is. I wonder if her parents know that she's out after dark on her own. Or one of them could be at the lot having their dinner at the bar. It's a professional bar I've got in there now. Julius has just popped in there to have something to eat. It's been thirsty and hungry work collecting all of those seeds since he's got home from his day job. Dishwasher's broken, making me wonder if Hayley goes and fixes the dishwasher, she should be safe because there's no water there, but the little toddler might get zapped, electrocuted if he's sitting in a puddle while she's fixing it, but he didn't. He got out of the way quickly because I told him to. Now, if that boarding school at Chocolate Cake Island wasn't so full, at this point I would be taking 1 or 2 of the toddlers from this household back to Chocolate Cake Island with me when we return, but we can't add any more little Sims to the boarding school at the moment. And now the baby is about to age up. She's got 0 days left before she ages up. This is Shark Racket's little baby girl. There's a little boy here too. That's the little toddler who belongs to Shark. And Pat's holding little Carolyn. This is Carolyn Racket, the baby. Candle's been blown out. This time she's got 2 big sisters to help her celebrate her birthday. Since Jamie aged up the child, she could come and help Kathleen and their mother celebrate. So that's it. She's now a toddler. That's Carolyn and Connie are the 2 youngest toddlers. They share a mother, but they have different fathers. Carolyn belongs to Shark Racket and Connie is Julius's daughter. I'm never quite sure what Hayley is going to do next, but I don't think she can fit any more children into this household. So she's probably not going to be able to have any more babies until Kathleen is old enough to move out. And by then she'll probably be an elder because she's an adult now. So she could have possibly reached her limit and completed her family. I think she really enjoys being pregnant, and I also think that she possibly would have liked to have had at least as many children as her mother did. But I can't see that happening. But you never know what she's going to get up to next. You're slowly getting to know some of Patience's family. This is one of the daughters she had with her first 5 children with Marty. There's Hayley. Her older sisters are Helena and Heather. Then there was Hayley, and after Hayley they had a boy, Henry, and then one more little girl, Hannah. And everybody has managed to have their own children. Henry's only got 2. He married a girl from Dragon Valley, and Hannah also married 2 different Sims from Dragon Valley. And one of them she divorced, and the other has died of old age. And I think she's got 4 children between the 2 of them. That was. And then Helena, of course, is married to Ted Fields, who used to be with Patience at one point. That's led to a bit of complications there too. Both Helena and Hayley have managed to hook up with one of Patience's exes, and they've had children with them, which makes the family relationship very complicated. At least Patience was never married to anyone other than Marty. That's the family tree there at the moment. So Hayley's managed to have 2 children with her husband Julius, and she's got another 2 with Shark Racket, 4 with Goodbye's Coffee, and first one was with her first husband Bob Coffee, who was her half-brother Percy's imaginary friend made real. That toddler with the purple wings, that's Joel. He is Julius's son. Julius managed to find a few seeds that he was able to plant without any gardening skill, and he found enough seeds that just by planting he got his gardening skill up to level 4. So he still is restricted as to what he can plant, but at least he's got his skill high enough now for his work. So he should be able to advance in his career. And we'll leave this household now and go back to Mena, who needs to collect Eloise Britton from the spare house down near the quayside so they can travel back to Chocolate Cake Island. I soon found Mena and put her into Eloise's house, and then Eloise wasn't home, so I went looking for her, and I found her at the diner right next to where Hayley and her family live. Apparently Julius had finished planting his garden and had changed and gone out to the diner for some light entertainment, where he had bumped into Eloise, who is a very attractive young woman, and he tried flirting with her. Now Eloise was in no mood for flirting, particularly not with Julius. So there was an altercation in progress when I arrived. Next thing, Donovan Steele turned up, and he was chatting with Eloise as well. And he even tried a little flirt, and she bit his head off as well. I don't think Eloise is very interested in the male Sims of this world. They all got red, negative, moodless signs over their heads whenever they tried to flirt with her. Julius went home all in a bit of a huff, leaving just Eloise and Donovan, and he tried a little flirt again, not working. I think I'll send Eloise home so she can join Mena on their trip back to the boarding school at Chocolate Cake Island and prepare for the journey back to Eloise's original home, which is the boarding school in Moonfall Island. Eloise made it home, and Mena dialed up the travel services, and they set out for Chocolate Cake Island. So that would be the end of the video. In the next episode we'll pick them up as they arrive in Chocolate Cake Island. So thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like, and if you'd like to make sure you see further episodes in this story and you haven't already subscribed, well then consider subscribing, and don't forget to click the bell so you get notifications. Bye bye for now, and happy simming.